Hi. Um, okay, here goes episode number 4 in How I Beat Cancer. My name's Mike Paul. Just to recap on the last episode, it was looking at Start With Why and Simon Sinek and understanding why I'm alive, what's my purpose in life, what do I want to do, and how I believe that helped me do everything I needed to do. That understanding though came from stuff I've only really in the last few months come across, and it's looking back at what I did and putting a new meaning or looking at what I did in a slightly different way. But what I've realised with some of the feedback I've got, and thank you very much for that, is that actually when I was back then, I didn't have that understanding, and it was just like, what can I do to beat cancer? So I'd like to dedicate this episode to a couple of people. One is Claire Madison, who's going through her own journey at the moment, and we've been chatting on Facebook, and this and the next couple of episodes are for Claire and the request that she made, but actually helped me focus on how best to go through this. The second person I'd like to dedicate this to is Bob Welford, who unfortunately is no longer alive. When I was going in and out of chemo, I was in for a week, sometimes 2 weeks at a time. And when you're in hospital, you got very quickly you found people that you wanted to be there when you were in, and others that were neither here nor there because you didn't really get a chance to know them or whatever. But Bob was one of those guys I looked forward to being there, and a book that he gave me shaped everything that I was then went on to do. So in some ways I actually feel that meeting Bob was a massive turning point and literally helped save my life. If anyone out there knows his family, please pass on my thanks, and I would love to be able to speak to any of them on Facebook or on phone or whatever, just to say thanks to Bob, but through them. Anyway, so let's moving on. What I'm going to talk about today is how I dealt with the news that I got cancer, going through diagnosis, meeting the oncologist, then going through the treatment for the first 8 months. It's going to be an overview because a lot of these things I hopefully will delve into in more detail and examine in different ways. And look, I'll just crack on with it because I'll get on. Okay, all right. So when I found out I probably had cancer, I was in a ski resort. I'd given up my job because I supposedly had headaches due to stress, and I decided I was going to try and take control of that and go away and do something that I love doing, which was skiing. But I found out pretty shortly, a week into the season, that actually I likely had a tumour, and they sent me back home straight away. One of the first things I did was Google fighting cancer. Don't know why, just that's what I did. And a book I came across, an ebook, which unfortunately I don't have anymore, talked about getting to know your enemy, know everything about it. The guy who wrote it suggested that they had evidence that people who knew more about it, found out more about it, took an active interest in their treatment, etc., had better chances going forward. So that's what I did. I researched everything I could. That's when I started. One of the places that helped really especially going into the meeting with the oncologist, was the National Cancer Institute's website. I'll put the links for everything in the notes below the video, so don't worry about taking notes from this. On the National Cancer Institute, it's a site in America that basically details all the latest treatment for every single cancer that they know, and it polls hospitals around the world and what they're doing, etc. So I basically had all these handouts when I went to my oncologist meeting, because I was going to, like, if I ain't getting the treatment on this, why not? So that was probably one of the first things, because at the beginning I was just like, I was going to go totally the conventional route, and so that's what I needed to know about. The other thing that they suggested was second opinion. Understand that actually the best way to beat cancer is to make sure that you are absolutely giving it the right treatment, because every cancer is different. So I was adamant that I was going to have a second opinion, especially as they seemed unsure about my first one. I got 2 different diagnoses for my cancer initially, and so I wanted a second opinion, which I did get, but unfortunately not until after I started the treatment. But as it was, it wouldn't have affected the treatment that I was going to get. During treatment, I got to know my regime really, really well, and that's because there was a mishap with my meds in the first regime, which they essentially missed out the anti-sickness meds. So I spent a lot of time vomiting, and once you've gone down that, once you've started taking the anti-sickness meds, is no good. So I would suggest to you, family, or anyone else, anyone who is unfortunate enough to be going through this at the moment, is to fully understand your protocols of treatment, timings, everything about it, so that you can keep check. Because whilst the nurses, the doctors, etc. are fantastic, they're under pressure and things sometimes don't go to plan. So that was a really important thing for me. Getting pain meds and everything right. When you're in pain, it's really, really difficult to be positive about anything. You're always living with it. It's always just nudging away at you, digging from the inside, irritating you, or even worse if it's intense pain. So if you can get on pain meds, if you're in pain, get the pain meds sorted, because that is a massive thing, and it was a massive thing for me, because once it was sorted, I could concentrate on everything else. Just writing a note for myself, sorry. Yeah, so pain meds. It was a bit of a bizarre system when I was there. So I had a consultant, and there's also the Macmillan nurse. The Macmillan nurses seem to be the specialists for the pain meds. So there were sometimes a bit of mix-ups and a delay in getting things sorted. Don't know whether that's the same now. And the actual nurses on the cancer ward, whilst they dished out the meds, they couldn't prescribe, and they had to go back to the doctor. So another thing for you to think about is actually just understand the process of everything. Just what is going to be happening, who do you need to speak to, who does what, so that you have a clear idea of who to go to. Once the pain meds got sorted and I understood my regime, there were certain things within. I was fortunate because I was fully mobile, so I could get in and out, I could do what I wanted. A few things with just dealing with the staff, the people around you, the variations, and this will probably be different for every ward that deals with cancer patients. The first thing I did with, and I tend to do this anyway. For me, is I wanted to build relationships. I was going to spend the next 8 months, 4 months out of that 8 in the hospital. So I wanted to make friends. I wanted to not hate going there. I wanted to see people smile at me, say hello. A bit like going to your local pub, knowing that things would be ready for you and stuff like that. That's me. I love talking about myself. I love talking about things I've done, things like that. But I also love talking with people and making friends. And that was a really important part for me, is building up the relationship with the healthcare assistants, the nurses, and some of the junior doctors. Consultants, different story. I'll leave that out for now. So yeah, build relationships. I wanted these guys to want to help me. They do anyway, but I saw some patients and families go in and give the staff merry hell, and with the best will in the world, when someone's doing that for you, it makes it really, really hard. So be nice and understanding of the staff, because they will return that with lots more. So going forward from that, understanding my regime and everything that was going, that started getting sorted, started making friends. Yeah, dealing with the consultants, waiting, the amount of time you spend waiting in hospital is unreal. You come in for your bloods, they don't tell you what's going on. It could be a couple of hours before you get the results, and you don't know whether you're going to get any treatment done that day or not, but you don't know what's happening. And the first time, that's all really scary and frustrating. So find out the process, take a book to read, whatever. Get something. Don't turn up at hospital on your first day of treatment with nothing, because you may well be sat around for hours. In terms of whilst you're in hospital, if you're staying in, I can't talk for day patients because I wasn't a day patient. I had to be in for several days at a time for my regime. Is get to know the place, understand the machinery. I was on a drip a lot of the time, and a lot of the time the alarms would go off on the drip, and you had to call the nurse, but only certain nurses were assigned to you. So I got to the stage where I understood the workings of the machinery myself. I probably shouldn't be saying this, but I got to the stage where I was switching off my alarms, working out the issues, etc. Now that's probably not a recommendation that anyone would follow, but for me, it gave me some level of control, understanding that actually not all the nurses would come and sort it out, because only certain ones were assigned to me. So I wanted control for myself. Likewise, when I was waiting for the consultant, the first time I was due to see the consultant, he turned up. He said he was going to come and visit me on the ward at late morning. Didn't turn up till 7 o'clock. Understand he's a busy guy, but I'm sat in bed all day like a lemon, getting really, really frustrated. So the next time, I just decided I was mobile, I was able, I was capable. I went walking, and I would tell the nurses, if he comes, I'm in the cafe downstairs, you can ring down or you can come and get me. Again, it was just making my stay as able as possible, as enjoyable for me, and putting things back on my terms, because that first time I just felt so useless and helpless, and you do not want to feel helpless going through this stuff. We all do at some stage, but taking control of those types of things was important for me. So yeah, that's dealing with the staff, just the ins and outs, a broad overview of that side of things for me. Going back to the first meeting with the oncologist, I had a whole array of questions. Write them down on a piece of paper, take them, mine, read them. He read the stuff from the NCI, the National Cancer Institute. Thankfully, he was doing the same treatment. He answered all my questions. If you write them all down, you won't forget them. So do that. Don't be afraid to ask them. It's your life, your body. Ask for all the risks of the treatment. Ask for alternatives. He can only talk he or she can only talk about certain stuff, but it's important for you to know. If I left everything in the hands of my doctors, I know for definite I would be in a totally different situation today. If indeed I might even be here, because I don't know what would have happened had I followed everything the doctors said. So yeah, get to know everything about it. I think that's a good time to stop for this one. The next bit I'll talk about Bob Welford and the book. So I didn't get to Bob in this one, but I will do in the next one, and that will go up very shortly too. Thanks a lot. Cheers.